When I was a little girl, there was nothing I wanted to be more when I grew up than a Disney princess. The idea of living in a castle far away with my Prince Charming and of course little animal friends seemed like the best possible life I could ever imagine. However, Disney princesses have changed a lot since I was a little girl sitting on the carpet watching my VHS tape of Cinderella. Over the last century, the portrayal of Disney princesses to young girls has drastically changed from the negative portrayals of weakness and submission to positive portrayals of strength and confidence. In the first era of Disney princesses, which take place between the years 1937 and 1950, the princesses include Aurora or Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and Cinderella. These three iconic princesses have molded the idea of body image and beauty ideals in American culture. In fact, a study on body image conducted by Emma Hathaway states that these fairy tale princess movies have molded the way that girls view beauty. And in these movies, they mention physical appearance on average of 13.6 times per film. And that is in a range from 0 to 114 times when talking about the beauty of women, but only 0 to 35 times when talking about the beauty of men. This shows that these movies focus such an emphasis on female beauty, and it gives the idea that all women are good for is their looks. Their beauty is what defines who they are based on their appearance. Rather than giving the idea that beauty comes from who a person is and what they look like on the inside, it gives the idea that beauty comes only from your body image and what your outside appearance looks like. What makes matters worse is that not only does it say that your appearance is what matters, but your appearance has to fit one specific body type. And that body type is described by Rachel Johnson from James Madison University as extreme pale skin tones, small waist, delicate limbs, and overall tiny features. Think about it. Cinderella is known to be the smallest in her entire kingdom. She only wins over the prince by fitting into the smallest glass slipper of anyone in the kingdom. No one else can fit into it because she is the smallest. This wouldn't be so bad if that was all it was. If only the girls who didn't look like Cinderella felt like they didn't measure up. But it gets worse than that in this film. In Cinderella, her stepsisters have bigger features and are less delicate and petite like Cinderella. Rather, they are bigger and taller and have bigger feet, especially because they couldn't fit into the shoes. But in this movie, the stepsisters are actually described as ugly. So girls who relate more to the stepsisters not only just feel like they don't measure up to Cinderella, but they feel like they are ugly because in this movie they are called so. And that is not an alright or okay thing to say about any woman. Saying that her sisters are ugly just proves the point that in these movies, body image and beauty ideals are specifically to one specific image. All three of these princesses look pretty much the same, despite a few changes like hair color and height. Those are really the only differences. The body image is one look. In Snow White, she is called the fairest of them all. And this creates another problem with the beauty ideals and the portrayal of beauty in these films. It portrays beauty as a competition between women. It gives the idea that in every community there is one woman who is the most beautiful. Snow White is the fairest of them all. Rather than giving the idea that everyone is beautiful in their own way, it puts women against each other to compete to be the most beautiful. And that is not the idea of beauty that we want to give our young girls. The other thing that is portrayed poorly in these movies is the idea of love. Love is only portrayed as the ideal of love at first sight. All three of these women meet their prince and immediately fall in love. Cinderella and the prince fall in love only by dancing with no words. And really the same with Aurora. Rather than being at a ball, she is dancing by herself in the forest, and Prince Philip comes and startles her and dances with her. And this is known as the moment where they fall in love, before they've even spoken to each other. This is not the ideal of love that we want to give to our young girls. They see this and they think that all relationships come from is looks. The only value you have to a man is the way that you look. And that's not the idea that we want to give at all. The final thing that is skewed in this era is the portrayal of independence. All three of these movies consist of a song sung by the princess where they are longing for a prince to come and save them. It gives the idea that women need a man to fulfill their lives, and that is not at all the idea that we want to give to our girls. We want girls to grow up into women who believe in themselves and feel they have the power to attack life and live life to the fullest without the help of a man. The second era of Disney princesses comes from the years between 1989 and 1998, and these princesses include Ariel, Belle, and Mulan. With the portrayal of beauty, we start with Ariel because she gives a new idea of beauty. Rather than just being beautiful for the way she looks, she is described as beautiful because of her singing voice. This is something that's a part of who she is and comes from the inside. So we're seeing the beginning of the change in the portrayal of beauty. Rather than focusing completely on looks, there is an element inside of her that is known as beautiful. But this is backtracked because Ariel is a more sexualized character when it comes to her beauty. Her main article of clothing for the majority of her film is a pair of seashells. And she's known to be 16 years old in the film, but her body is one that is similar to a 20-something-year-old woman rather than a 16-year-old girl. And she's definitely over-sexualized in the way that her body is portrayed. In fact, in the movie, Ursula tells Ariel that she won't even need her voice when she goes on land because men don't like a woman who talks too much. She basically gives Ariel the idea that all men care about in a woman is her body. So definitely not the idea that we're wanting to give to girls, but it is a step in the right direction with the emphasis on the beauty of her voice. Belle takes this even further in the movie Beauty and the Beast. Belle is known as beautiful because she is different, and she seeks intelligence. This movie places an impact on the love for reading. That is something that is definitely new in a Disney princess, and it's something to be acknowledged and to give value to. But the movie that really steps out in this area is Mulan. Mulan takes a big step and changes everything for Disney princess films. Mulan gives a different idea of beauty. Leanne Blankenstein, who studied the depiction of women in Disney films, makes an excellent point when she discusses that Mulan actually does not give an idea of beauty for most of the movie. In fact, she wears clothing that covers most of her body for most of the film. The only time her beauty is really discussed is at the beginning of the movie, when she is told that she's not eligible for marriage. But really, it's not for her beauty at all. It's for her clumsiness and her characteristics being more masculine. But we see that throughout the course of the film, this actually turns out to be something that is beautiful. She is a fighter and she's strong, and that is admired in her by the end of the film. Another thing that is portrayed in this era is the portrayal of love, and it improves over the last one because rather than focusing only on needing saving, these girls have love not even romantically. Ariel does, but what I want to talk about is Mulan and Belle, because they change the portrayal of love in this era. In Beauty and the Beast, Belle's biggest act of love is for her father. She takes his place as the Beast's prisoner, and it's actually the same for Mulan. Rather than taking her father's place as prisoner, she takes her father's place in the war because she knows that he can't fight. She even disguises herself and puts herself into war to protect her father. Rather than seeking a romantic interest, both of these girls just seem to find love on their own, and it's not the biggest part of their movies. Beauty and the Beast more so than Mulan, but Mulan has no romantic interest until the last couple minutes of the movie. Mulan really is the movie that changed everything, because in the portrayal of independence, Mulan steps out and shows signs of courage and strategy, things that are normally masculine characteristics, but she changes the game. The final era of Disney princesses are in films covering the years 2009 to 2016. And these princesses are Tiana, Moana, Merida, and Rapunzel. I want to begin with Tiana and Moana because they make the biggest impact in the portrayal of beauty, because they are the first Disney princesses to have different skin tones. We finally see the first African American princess and the first Islander princess. And it shows girls with similar skin tones that they are beautiful too. Unlike the original era where we began, where fair skin was the ideal beauty and everything else was not beautiful, now we see all kinds of different races and skin tones being called beautiful. So young girls who have darker skin can see this and know that women are beautiful regardless of their skin tone. Another thing about the portrayal of beauty in Moana is that Moana is a young girl, similar to Ariel. But unlike The Little Mermaid, where Ariel was over-sexualized in her body image, Moana looks like a young girl. And she's not all skin and bones. She has a healthy body type and looks like a normal girl. Granted, she is still small and thin, but it is a step in the right direction. She looks more human than the rest of them. Another portrayal of beauty in this era is with Merida. Rather than being prim and proper and polished, she's messy and fun. And she shows that getting dirty and doing sports is totally princess material. The portrayal of love in this era is especially noticeable as well. Tangled, I believe, is one of the most realistic love stories that we get out of a Disney princess film. Because Rapunzel loves Flynn Rider for who he really is, Eugene. And when it comes down to it, she even is willing to sacrifice her own life for him. But they come to love each other over a series of adventures and conversations rather than love at first sight like the beginning of the Disney princess era with Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. And Brave and Moana are the movies that really step farthest in this. They are so progressive because there is no romantic interest for either of them. In Brave, Merida does have many gentlemen that fight for her hand in marriage and pine after her, but she's not interested in any of them. And in the end, she wins her own hand in marriage. But in Moana, I would argue that it's the most progressive of all of these movies in this era, because there is no discussion of romance throughout the entire film. The male lead in Moana is more of a father figure to her than anything else. There's no romantic interest. And that shows that the portrayal of love has completely changed. Because rather than only discussing a man coming into a woman's life and that's her happily ever after, Moana becomes the leader of her tribe. And that's her happily ever after. There's no man even involved. And finally, the portrayal of independence in this era. In Tangled, Rapunzel just shows her independence because rather than just letting Flynn Rider take her to the floating lights, before she gets there, she hits him on the head with a frying pan, ties him up, and interrogates him. She's definitely not a delicate, submissive type of woman. And Merida is the most inspiring of them all because she takes her own hand in marriage. After watching the movie Brave, Stephanie Haynes of Christian Monitor newspaper says, "Girls discover what it means to take their own interests seriously and pursue them deeply and vigorously." Stephanie brings the greatest point. This movie shows girls that you can be who you are and do what you love, and that can be your purpose. Rather than your purpose coming from the way you look and finding a man who likes the way you look, your purpose comes from who you are deep within, and your beauty comes from who you are on the inside. What an incredible turnaround. From helpless women who need someone to save them to these incredible new women who fight for themselves, and we see a woman who wins her own hand in marriage. When little girls see someone voice their own opinions, be themselves, and fight for what they believe in, they see that their value comes from so much more than their looks. Their beauty comes from on the inside. Through many films, Disney has changed its portrayal of princesses from demeaning to empowering, and they raise up a generation of women who are confident in themselves and who believe in themselves. They show the greatness of being a woman. And they show that no matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like, or what you may have done, anyone can be a princess.